All right, we got 4 of them. Let's get the other 2 check marks in here. We don't want to leave our Facebook friends, family, and fiends and foe in the lurch here, but we got spinning wheels. There we go. Welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday night, the 9th of May, and it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, Carl Dumler. Carl, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening? You still stuck to the ground? What's going on out there in Kansas? How's the weather?
It's been all right. We had a giant hailstorm that went just north of us. So
Okay.
we didn't get hit, but everybody else around us got hit, it seemed like. So feeling a little fortunate that way. But no, it's been good. We're right there in those spring storms. You never know what's going to happen day to day. Right in the middle of some of these. I think it was one of the drafts. I had to leave because we had like a tornado warning or something.
I recall.
And so, yeah, it's the Midwest. Always a good time out here. But it's getting warm, getting to be that golfing weather. And kids are almost out of school, so I can have that excuse of, hey, midday, let's go to the golf course. And so I'm getting excited about that. But how are things out your way in the Pacific Northwest?
We have a crazy heat dome event coming where it's never been above 90 degrees before May 17th before. And the forecast is showing like 95 on like May 15th and 16th. So I guess you get what you ask for. It's been crazy cold in April, and now we got a heat dome. We're going to jump right from winter to spring or winter to summer, but that's okay. I got a buddy coming in from Germany. I haven't seen since my wedding in 2019. I'm just hoping the nicer, non-cold, rainy weather holds out for him when he's here. But, good vibes on that front. But let's get into it here. Obviously, we got a lot of Broncos stuff to talk about today. It is the offseason, so we can stretch our legs a little bit too. If you guys got anything in the comment section that you want us to expand upon, football related or not, we can get into it. But the first one, let's say hello to some people in the chat joining us today. We got our guy David Meckelrath coming in saying good evening, Broncos country. Nick, Carl, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Buckham 3 times. And hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Good to see you, David. We appreciate you over on YouTube. Also over on the YouTube side of things, Kevin Gray coming in saying evening, Carl, Nick, and Scott. And a big mile high salute to Broncos country. What are the rumors today? Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Carl, what are the rumors today? What's going on? Have you heard anything? I know there's some talk about, I've seen the Kareem Hunt ones circulating a little bit, but other than that, I haven't heard too much on the Broncos rumor front.
Yeah, that's pretty much been the big one that everybody's talking about here for the last few days. I think, I can't remember who it was over at ESPN, I think brought it up over on Saturday or something like that, but makes a lot of sense for the Broncos. Running back room seems pretty thin. Nobody that's a clear-cut starter. I mean, P. Ryan looks like he's probably going to be the starter, but behind him, there's a lot of unknown. Williams, don't know when he's going to be back, so it'd be good for the Broncos, especially that Sean Payton loves a 2 running back system. He doesn't usually have that bell cow guy that's just going out there getting that 300, 350 carries or whatever. So got to have that second player. Kareem Hunt makes a lot of sense.
Kareem Hunt does make sense. They'll find another running back. I don't know who it'll be. Maybe it'll be Kareem Hunt. Maybe it won't be. With Kareem Hunt, he's a good pass catcher. He's lost a little bit of juice out there. You kind of see it last year in Cleveland, but somebody who, if it's blocked in front of him well, he can be serviceable, good pass protector, and again, a good receiving back out of the backfield. And not about what you know. It's not about your play. Sometimes about who you know. And he was recruited to Toledo and also played under Lou Ayenya. I cannot get the last name right of the Broncos' new running back coach that they brought in from Northwestern. He recruited Kareem Hunt and was the coach of his positional group at Toledo when Kareem Hunt was there. So obviously the connection there makes a lot of sense, but we'll see. But I guess that's the latest rumor. Other things, still a lot of draft talk. ESPN saying that Broncos head scratching move, trading up for Marvin Mims. Broncos great pick, taking Drew Sanders. It's all that we're trying to squeeze out that draft content as much as possible, and God bless them for that because we have things to talk about because of that. But thank you so much, Kevin. If you guys hear anything too, we can talk about it as well on here. We got Todd Ostendorf coming in saying good evening, building better Broncos. Feel free to use it. BBB. The BBB, I think that's already taken. That's the Better Business Bureau or something. But appreciate it. Yeah, it is. Okay. I think they gave me a scholarship when I was in high school. I don't remember. Shout out to the BBB. God bless you. My guest coming in. What's up, Nick, Carl, Scott, Dylan, and Broncos country? Not too much. And my guest getting into it. So I had a chance to talk with Scott about it this morning, but I can give you the floor on this one, Carl. My guest comes in and says, think the Broncos made a mistake bringing back Kareem Jackson. Too old and was a liability last year. What do you think about Mike's comment here about Kareem Jackson, him coming back on a veteran minimum, a mistake?
I don't view it as a mistake. I mean, like I said, he's not getting paid a whole lot. and he's been a nice veteran presence for the Broncos. He's one of the few big time hitters that isn't afraid to come down, make some plays. I think he can be a really nice mentor for Skinner as he kind of adjusts to the NFL level. As much as I want to see what the young guys can do, that was a room after the draft that I was kind of going, what do we got after Justin Simmons? We really just don't know. Caden Stearns looked promising his rookie year, but then got injured, up and down play after that. And we've talked about it before. Just, beyond that, there's just not a whole lot for the Broncos to get excited about. And they need at least 3 pretty competent safeties to feel good about this defense. And so I don't mind them bringing back Kareem Jackson. Again, he's on a very minimum contract. If those younger players emerge, it's not a big deal if you have to cut them. Mm-hmm. Or if you decide, hey, we're going to split up a lot more of the playing time. So that's the big reason. If it was a big contract, then I'd be sitting here going, yeah, that was a stupid move. But it's not a big contract.
Yeah, I don't know about too old and a liability, my guess. I appreciate the shout here, even though you're talking against your Alabama guy there in Kareem Jackson, but he definitely has lost a step. Not the same player he was, 2-3 years ago. But as far as coming in and raising the floor of the room, I think that's a good place to be. You mentioned it about Caden Stearns. I mean, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So now you have Kareem Jackson coming in, and that's your worst case scenario is you have Kareem Jackson, who was serviceable there last year at a position that really, you want serviceable. You want elite players, obviously, but serviceable matters a lot on the back end. It's the backbone of the defense, knowing the run fits, knowing the communication, the non-verbal communication that goes on between safeties and linebackers and cornerbacks as well. So again, this is not a over-the-top move as far as, it takes the Broncos defense from a top 10, 15 unit to top 5, but it probably keeps them from being, bottom 25, like one of the top 25 kind of thing. So it raises the floor of that room in the safety position. I'm curious to see how Vance Joseph would deploy him. I know there's been a lot of 3 safety discussion as well. Caden Stearns, apparently, I think it was James Palmer, back when free agency first started, about 2 Broncos not to forget about. And the 2 players he listed was Tim Patrick and the other one being Caden Stearns, saying that Vance Joseph and some of these guys love Caden Stearns that they're bringing in. So it's Caden's job to lose, in my opinion. But if he does lose it, it's probably to Kareem Jackson, and it would be because either he's hurt again or he's just not picking up the playbook / the run fit / physicality that is demanded of your back 7 players in today's spacing NFL. So we got Wolfie Malat coming in here, $10. I don't recognize the name Woofy, but appreciate the $10 here, man. Keeping the lights on, helping us upgrade the cameras. I see Carl's got a really nice matte Broncos miniature helmet back there. Yeah, help him trick us out. We appreciate that, Woofy. He says, you know him, we love him. Mile high salute. Nick, Carl, Scott, Dylan, Denver Broncos for life. We ready? Well, thank you so much, Woofy. We appreciate you so much coming in here and put your money where your mouth is. Obviously, you guys aren't obligated to do that, but when you do, it really does help us out a lot. So shout out to Woofy for the $10 super chat over on the YouTube side of things. Also, we got our guy Gary Palmer coming in, $9.99. Woofy got you by 1 cent there. Gary, what's going on? No, I'm just kidding. $9.99 saying, hey guys, go Broncos. Hey to you, Gary. Hope you're doing well. Always appreciate the notorious GLP coming in and hanging out with us. Hope you're doing well. Miguel Santasteven, also a recent jersey winner on the Facebook side of things. Shout out to Miguel. He won the raffle on the Facebook side of things for the last month. So Miguel, always a big time player on our show, and now going to be rocking a brand new Broncos jersey of his choice. So going to be great. I'm glad to have you on here joining us. Phil McLaughlin, also another notorious star supporter on the show, saying good evening, Carl, Nick, and Deacon Scott. I see we have the 12th toughest schedule this year. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag MHH for life. I'm curious where you got that from, Phil. Obviously, the Broncos' schedule is always going to be a little bit weighted because they play Kansas City twice. They play a Chargers team twice. But I think there was a study done. I want to give a shout out to Warren Sharp, I believe it was. About 3 years ago, I came across it. I remember where I was. I was like vacuuming my apartment. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So the teams sometimes in the strength of schedule for the upcoming season, they use last year's win-loss record. And historically, that doesn't have very good predictive power. What actually is very good predictive-wise for strength of schedule is the Vegas over-unders. So I'm not sure where you're getting the 12th toughest strength of schedule, but if it's coming from Vegas and the over-unders there, then I'd buy it. Michael Ronquillo also coming in. Man, you guys are killing it today. Thank you so much. Good evening, Nick and Carl, on building the Broncos. Go Broncos and Buckham. Buck you too, Michael. We appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. So what do you think about 12th toughest schedule? Going back to the previous comment, the Broncos finished with the 5th worst record in football last season. Then they're rewarded with the 12th toughest schedule. I'd have to see what it looks like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's you look at the opponents and you can see how it could be a tough schedule. I mean, Jets, you thought maybe that was going to be one of your easier games, and they go get Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, like I said, the Chiefs, Chargers, obviously looking pretty good. Broncos have struggled against the Raiders, and you got a couple other teams that you're going to play that are going to be pretty rough for the Broncos. Yeah. So I think they play the Bills too, if I remember right. I can't quite remember off the top of my head up, but anyway,
we'll know the schedule Thursday.
It is. It's going to be a tough schedule for the Broncos, but the NFL, it is such a league that changes every year so much. There's a lot of teams. I think almost every year you have a team that goes from 4th to 1st. And so you got to expect that that's probably going to happen again this year. I don't think it'll be the Broncos just because they got the Chiefs in the division. But like I said, when you got about 40% turnover in the playoffs every single season, those teams that you're looking at and saying, oh, they were in the playoffs last year, it's going to be really tough. Well, some of those teams are going to miss it. Bills in Miami. There we go. I knew they were playing the AFC East there, but
the Jets and the Patriots too. Yep.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so like I said, sometimes you think, hey, this team's going to be really tough. Then they have a couple really serious injuries. I know they were still pretty darn good, but the 2008 Patriots, they went from the undefeated season in 2007. Tom Brady gets hurt game 1. And then they only go 11-5. So all of a sudden, they go from looking like they're unbeatable to, oh, wow, we stand a chance against this team. Mm-hmm. So anything can happen in this league. It's even, let's say Patrick Mahomes goes down week 2 of the season,
which we're not pulling for.
Really changes the
don't
I know we're not rooting for it. Right.
Yeah.
But just imagine that happens. I mean, the whole outlook of who the Chiefs are this season completely changes if that happens.
Yeah, and our outlook is changing too with Chase Wellner coming in with a $10 super chat over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Chase. Go to your home ball. Always love seeing the Happy Gilmore picture there over on the YouTube side of things. So appreciate you, Chase, and shout out to you. Chelsea Hilborn, good morning. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Todd. Hey, Mike. Also got our guy, Zach Powers, coming in saying good evening, fellas, with the cheers on the beer. I might be doing that watching the hockey game later, but we'll see. It's always good. I made Cardinals Cubs too. They didn't play this afternoon, I don't think so. We got Jetty Splash coming in. Jetty, I think, hit us with a super chat this morning or yesterday morning. So thank you so much, Jetty. We appreciate you. David Yunkin coming in here. Looks like it's a crying with no face emoji here. Hope you're doing okay, David. Shout out to, reach out if you need help. Sunny Days. Hope you're doing well. Sunny Days with the hearts and the thumbs up. Good to see you. Ernie Mays in the house. Hello, Carl and Nick, and go Broncos country. Good to see you. Elias, want to shout out? Shout out. There you go. Shout out to you, Elias. Appreciate you coming in here. Paul's in the house too. Good to see you, Paul. Nick, Carl, and Scott. Hello. Good to see you, Paul. Paul's a great guy. Always love hearing from Paul. Cordero Hall over on the Facebook side of things. Good to see you. Jason Can. Hey, Broncos country. What do you think about Jaleel in the Sproles type role? 7 to 10 touches and hope he breaks 1 or 2. Jaleel, gosh, that name is not ringing a bell to me right now. Is he somebody that's an undrafted free agent on the depth chart? I'm just Jaleel is not sticking out to me. They also have Tyler Beatty. Obviously, they brought in, the guy that was played Tony Spears maybe as well. I can't remember. The running back depth chart is just a bunch of names right now besides the top guys. But Jaleel, I'm not sure about who Jaleel is.
Yeah, so it's Jaleel McLaughlin is the one that he's talking about.
Undrafted free agent. Okay, yes.
Yes. And so I've watched a little bit. Actually has some get up and go. You watch the highlights. It looks nice. But obviously highlights only tell a very small picture of who a player is. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that he can't turn into something. I'm just saying there's a reason that he went undrafted. Yeah. And the teams they saw the strengths, and they're great strengths. But the weaknesses obviously had teams kind of questioning, what is this guy going to turn into in the NFL? I don't know if he's going to be a very big contributor this year. I still think, like you said earlier, I think the Broncos are not done at the running back position. I still think they're going to bring in another veteran and maybe then have all these undrafted guys battle it out for that third running back spot until Williams is ready to come back.
Certainly possible. I mean, for the undrafted free agents, those guys we listed, there's a Tony as well who they signed. Those guys, to me, I'm waiting for camp to see who stands out and getting tape of those guys on an even playing field. So maybe he's one that we'll have to pay attention to, but especially for undrafted free agents, unless I watched them in college. I'm kind of waiting for the new tape, Even Ground, to come out for those guys. We got Kenny Abiata coming in here, $5. So let us know. I mean, if you're doing $5, I better damn well get your name right. So let us know how we say that correctly. Saying it'll be a tough schedule. We do play the Bills in Miami. It'll be rough, but we can hold our own, hopefully. And I think the Broncos are going to be competitive this year. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot as much. So, that's half the battle last season, right? Adam Strange, what's up, Broncos Maniacs? Good to see you. Got Michaela Israel. Good evening, Broncos country. Good to see you. Michaela Carol Allen coming in saying good evening, my Broncos friends. Great to see you, Carol. Hope you're doing well. And also, we had another super chat coming in here from our guy, Woofy Woody, coming in now. He says it should have been Woody, but autocorrecting just kind of stuck. Well, I like Woofy as well because I'm a big dog lover, and I know Carl and Scott are as well. So I also was a fan of Toy Story, so really you're going to win us over either way. Woofy or Woody works for me. But Woody says, if Russ fails, what's the next move? Do they bench him for the rest of the season? How many games does he lose before that would happen? Thoughts? So Woofy Woody is coming in asking us about what does a Russ failure look like? What's the leash look like? So we got some dog puns in here. And is it possible that the Broncos could make a move to a different quarterback? So what do you think here, Carl? How long a leash does Russell Wilson have this season before they could move on to somebody else?
So I'm guessing that they're probably going to give him until they know that they're out of the playoffs this season, unless things are just like off the rails. Everybody in the locker room hates this guy. Yeah. Russell Wilson's doing some crazy things, whatever it may be. And obviously he's out there costing the team games. Maybe at that point, then they're going, okay, we're done with this. Let's go to Stidham. Let's see what he's got. He's a young guy that we're hoping maybe has a little bit to his game. That's the only way that I see it happening before that. Otherwise, I think they'll give him until they're out of the playoffs. And then they'll say, all right, Stidham, hey, how about you come in? Let's see if you got a couple games in you. Maybe we can see you as the future. And then we can move on from Russ and we can maybe give you a year and we'll bring in a rookie to challenge you, something like that. And then kind of go from that place at that point. But like I said, this year, I think they're still pretty much not all in, but 90% in on Russell Wilson being the quarterback.
I truly do believe that if Stidham is picking up the playbook better and looking better in practice, that they will go with Stidham as soon as week 1. I think it's much more likely that Russell Wilson will play, but I don't think there are any politics involved at all in terms of this quarterback decision. Sean Payton has done every single chance he's had to, they tossing up softballs to him, say something nice about Russell Wilson. I'm not going to do it, so quit asking, to quote Nick Saban there. But I think that if Jarrett Stidham comes in and looks better, I don't think they'll have any issue going that way. Now, will that cause issues in the locker room? Too damn bad, I guess. I think it will be Wilson because I think Wilson is the more talented quarterback, but I don't think, Wilson was not picked by this regime. Wilson is somebody that every chance Sean Payton has had is distanced himself. So I think if Stidham does come in, it could be as early as week 1 that Russell Wilson would be benched. If not, I don't think it has anything to do with playoffs or anything. It's just going to be who's the best guy. Broncos would have to really take it on the teeth to move on from Wilson after the season. But again, I think Sean Payton is very much out of the politics of the roster. This is his team. And he doesn't care what, George Payton or the previous coaching staff paid to bring in Wilson. He's not there to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Make Wilson happy. That's not his job. He's there to win football games. So I really think he's going to come in and be somewhat of a hard ass. And if Stidham beats him out, or you think Stidham gives him a better chance to win, I think they'll make that move. So maybe that's hot take. I don't know. I really think that he's that. I think he really follows that ideology.
Yeah, I can see it. And Sean Payton has said that many times. Best player plays. Because I don't care if you're a rookie. I don't care how you got to this team. And maybe he is thinking quarterback when he's really talking about that kind of thing. Because Stidham's his choice. Russell Wilson was not his choice. And a lot of times you kind of see where new coaches come in. They're trying to kind of get rid of the old regime. Kind of put everything on them and say, hey, it's their problem. They brought in all these bad players that I had to work with. And obviously Russ has not done great to help himself with the horrible season last year. A lot of things that were going on beyond just what was going on in the field. So you're right. I could definitely see that being a real possibility for the Broncos.
And I think if it's at all close, they'll go with Russell Wilson. But if it's not close, if Stidham's the better quarterback out there and he's picking up the playbook better and running the system, because believe me, Sean Payton is much about his system out here, and he believes that Stidham is running the system better. I don't think I don't think he'll hesitate. I really don't. For better or for worse, we'll see what the fallout is in the locker room and everything with that. But I really think that if he believes Stidham's a better quarterback, he'll go that way.
Yeah.
Jasmine coming in here saying, "What's up, guys? What's up with you, Jasmine? Hope you're doing well. Always appreciate Jasmine coming in." Also, and Tony Jones, that was the name I was thinking of. Thanks, Vinny J, and also Vinny giving me the shout out here with a damn fine head of lettuce. I said multiple people like, Nick, you need to wear a hat less. Well, the issue is that most of my shows are morning shows, and well, I have bedhead in the morning because I'm up at 6 a.m., right? I'm not showering before that because I walk the dog and sometimes work out too. So appreciate the shout out there. David Meckelrath coming in here. Papa Bear says, I 100% agree with you, Nick, on Wilson. We'll see. I mean, I think he's going to come in and you're going to have to earn it. So I don't think there's any politics in here for previous regimes players. I do think there'll probably be some politics in the guys that were just drafted / brought in because, again, handpicked by this coaching staff and whatnot. But previous ones, I don't know, man. I really don't know.
Right. That's why I think it was last week's show. I picked Riley Moss to actually beat out to win that second cornerback spot for the Broncos. But we got Naj coming in with a 1999 super chat. Really appreciate that. Saying, hey, brothers, that pass Wilson made to Judy in the Chargers game before half was one of the best plays I have seen by a Bronco quarterback. Peyton fixes Wilson's confidence and we win the division. Believe it. I hope you're right.
God,
I really do. I was listening to David Carr talk about Russell Wilson earlier, and he pointed out, he said that Sean Payton is one of those guys that he has his system. He's not one that sits there and says, let's build it around the players. Like last year, it was all about Russ. Like, what do you want to do, Russ? What kind of plays do you like? We're going to run that. Sean Payton's more of a, this is my system. I'm going to teach you how to run my system. And so I am interested to see how Russ does when he's now put back into a system that's not built around him and what he wants. Can he really step back into that?
I'm going to disagree a little bit on that front. Sean Payton is very much about the system, but I think he can morph his system to the quarterback. And the reason I say that is because what he was running with Drew Brees, even the beginning of Drew Brees' career to the end, was evolved. What we saw with Teddy Bridgewater compared to Jameis Winston was night and day different. And then also kind of bringing in Taysom Hill as well. So it's still about what if you can execute the system. But I think that with Wilson, the quarterback there, he's not going to, and you made a great point as well. He's not going to ask Wilson what do you want to do here? He's going to say, these are the 5 plays that I think you do best at. We're going to implement these concepts into here. This is what our system is now. I don't care if you want to be Tom Brady, shotgun quarterback, quick pass game 50 times a game. We just have the tape from that last year. It's not good. So we're going to go back to under center, heavy play action, get you down the field, get you what was doing well for you on a Hall of Fame path prior to last season. So I do think he can evolve his system to the quarterback and the players that he has.
No, I would agree with that. I meant more that Russ isn't going to have the power that he had this last year, that he's not the one designing the plays, that it really will be Sean Payton designing things that, like you said, these are the things he thinks will work, not so much what Russ thinks is going to work. Yeah. And, David Carr pointed out, he said, last year there's just too much within the system. Yeah. There's just too much eye candy going on of all the things that he's got to figure out. And he just wasn't great at processing through all that. And we talked about that during the season, but that's not Russ's game. It's never been his game to, here's 1 through 4. Let's go through the progressions. He can't do that.
I mean, even
he thinks he can.
Stuff was not great.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other problem. And so a lot of times he was late on getting to the right player that was actually going to be open, which led to some of his interceptions, especially in the red zone. And we've got a lot of people saying, have more faith in Russ. And it's just hard because of what we saw last year. It was some of the worst quarterback play. Broncos have had horrendous quarterback play. And I wouldn't say that Russ was the worst by any means, because Paxton Lynch was definitely a lot worse than what we saw, but it's still up there. I mean, it's still kind of in that same idea of just from what you expected to what you actually got. It was horrendous.
Yeah. And I do think Russ is going to come in and play much better, and I hope he does well, but there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about the level of play that we'll see this season. And Sean Payton doesn't owe Russ anything. Who he owes is the new ownership who brought him in and this fan base to win games. So we'll see. I do think Russ will have it's going to be hard for Russ to play worse than he did last year for how they're emphasizing him, hopefully a little bit healthier. But again, it's not I would not mark him down in Sharpie at the starter. I think it's, 90, what did you say earlier is the odd 90 to 10?
Yeah.
Probably 90-10, maybe even 95-5. Wilson to Stidham if we're excluding injuries from that probability. But again, it's an open competition. Go out there and earn it. You haven't earned anything under this new coaching staff. So maybe that's old school. I don't know. But Riptide, and I disagree. Russ is going to be running a lot of bootleg and play action. He's going to be running a lot of play action. I see some bootleg as well, but I'm curious. He's lost a little bit of his zip last season, or his overall like giddy up that he had even prior to his hamstring issue. I mean, I was talking about it this morning with Scott. I was at the game week 1 in Seattle, and I'm watching. Used to be, Russell Wilson could easily get through, like pick up a first down, tucking the ball and running, just running out of bounds. Remember a few games against the Broncos with Seattle where he was just, zipping around easily. Last season, we had 300-pound defensive linemen closing on him like that. I mean, he just does not have the same boots that he used to have. And I remember, this one haunts me, but I think it was Mike Sando was talking about Russell Wilson after that week 1 game on the Athletic podcast. And he mentioned that Russell Wilson without the athleticism is unfortunately Baker Mayfield. Big arm, over the middle field stuff, the processing, not so great. So Sean Payton's going to play the hits and he's going to work him into the best situation possible. But I'm curious what the best looks like from Wilson in this new iteration of his abilities.
I am interested to see. I've seen a couple pictures of him during the offseason, and he does look like he's lost some weight.
Good. I mean,
yeah, he looked way too bulked up last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looked like he didn't have the flexibility to make some of the turns. And obviously like I said, the athleticism just wasn't what it was before. And I think he kind of bulked up because he thought, I'm going to be more of that real pocket passer quarterback. So I need to be able to take some of those hits. And now he's kind of figuring out, that's just not me. I hope that's what he's figuring out. That's what the Broncos need. They need at least a little bit of that athleticism. Like I said, bootlegs, play action, use your legs a little bit, like we saw with that Jerry Jeudy pass in that last game. Those kind of things. That's what this offense needs. If we can be a run-first offense, really power, get that offensive line going, get these running backs really cranking out first down after first down, control the line of scrimmage. If Russell Wilson can just be that for you, you can go out there and win a lot of games this year.
And a lot of the moves have been to not only maximize what Russell Wilson did best with the Pete Carroll teams, but also de-emphasize, having to win because of him. With the offensive line, specifically the run blocking personnel or the run game personnel that they brought in, Russell Wilson doesn't have to be Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes for the offense to get better. And I see some comments about last year humbled Russell Wilson. I mean, he was probably feeling himself a little bit last season. Superstar coming in, going to save the franchise. Big trade, calling the shots on the team he went to. And then last season was a wet fart. So, by all accounts, some people don't like Wilson because they claim he's inauthentic and all this stuff. The high knees down the aisle, whatever. But he's out there, I think, doing good work on the whole for the world. Making a difference out there. So I'm definitely pulling for him, but he's still got to play well at the end of the day. So we'll see what happens with Wilson this season. We really went on a tangent here with Wilson, but I want to give you the floor now to introduce what our topic of the show was going to be. And I want to hear what you have to say first on this as well. So go ahead.
All right. So our topic today, and it's kind of inspired by an article that Lance Anderson wrote over at Mile High Huddle. I recommend you go out there and check it out. It's he picked 3 free agents that he think would be good for the Broncos to go out there and sign. And I don't think the Broncos really have that kind of cap space to go make 3 big moves because there's still some decent names out there. I still think they can go make one decent move, whether that's Kareem Hunt for the running back room or some other players that we might talk about here. But I was just kind of curious if there's like one move that you can kind of think of that would make you go, I'd feel a lot better about the Broncos if they go and get this guy. And I guess since it's my topic, I can start with my guy. And I went through a lot of different names. At one point I even had Shelby Harris as my choice because that defensive line group, I'm not comfortable with where that room's at right now. I still think that they need one more guy that you feel pretty good can come in and give you quality snaps or can start if there is an injury. But I think that there's still some decent names out there for the edge position. That's kind of where I decided to go. And so I went with Yannick Ngakoue. And this is a guy, he's been kind of bouncing around the league. And I'm always kind of surprised because he's actually been a very consistent pass rusher in the NFL. I think every single season that he's been in the NFL, he's had at least 8 sacks. Now sacks kind of come and go, and but he's actually been a pretty darn good pass rusher, and he's had a lot of starts here in the NFL. And so right now I'm looking at the Broncos. I'm looking at, okay, you got Baron Browning on one side, Randy Gregory on the other side, and obviously we don't know exactly behind them if there's any kind of quality starter. And so for me, Ngakoue, he's one of those guys that at least he has that starting experience, and he's going to give you quality snaps if you want to bring him in there on some of those pass rushing opportunities. You know, I like some of our young guys that I think can really do something. I'd really like to see Drew Sanders get some opportunities on third down. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I just need a guy that I feel comfortable being a starter if one of those guys goes down. And it's, to me, it's not even an if, it's when one of those guys goes down, because Browning and Gregory have both struggled with being a consistent starter. They've both struggled with injuries.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. Got to ask, should I go with a hindsight doing something differently that's already come and gone, or something that they should do at this point going forward?
Maybe both.
Well, in hindsight, I think in hindsight, I probably would have been a little bit more aggressive with the center position in free agency, because there was guys out there that I think would add some versatility and competency to the room that were not very expensive on the surface. I mean, Ethan Pokasic got a 3-year, $18 million contract. Not super impressive contract, but I think he'd have helped you out a lot. Connor McGovern signed like the day before the draft, and he's played guard and center. That would have been very nice to have before the draft. I think also Bradley Bozeman played pretty well there this past season for the Panthers, which an offensive line that looked very competent down the stretch there. So there's 3 interior offensive linemen that personally I would have liked to have signed, if at all possible. Obviously, the Broncos already spent the most guaranteed money in NFL history of any team this season. So spending wasn't an issue, but I would have liked to have seen them maybe even taken a little bit of a savings at the 2 big offensive linemen they signed. I mean, is Ben Powers like, 160% of the player that Isaac Semialu is, who signed with the Steelers for a decently cheap contract? I don't know. Is Mike McGlinchey 2 times the player that Caleb McGarry is, who signed a 3-year, $25 million contract or something? Not big for the Falcons. I don't know. So I'd be curious about, some hindsight there. Not that I'm not a fan of, the signings that they did, but I think offensive line specifically is how strong you are across the board, not a singular dominant player. And I have questions about the center still. I do have it on pretty good info. The Broncos were interested in potentially trading up for a center. Fortunately, none of the ones they were eyeing fell to the point that they wanted. Maybe Alex Forsyth, even though he has bad testing numbers for the center, which probably matters the least for center, but still worth noting. So that's one that I think in hindsight, I probably would have been a little bit more aggressive up front on bringing some competency at the center position than where you sit right now, where it's back to the Cushenberry experience this season. So obviously, again, hard to turn over the entire offensive line in one off season, but that's one, like in hindsight, I'm like, wish they'd have done that. Also, as much as I like Riley Moss, I don't know if I love giving a future top 100 pick away when we don't know where we're going to be at next year in the draft, especially if we have to be aggressive for a quarterback potentially, but that's neither here nor there. My one right now that I would look to do for this team, and I talked about it for a while, so if you tuned in this morning with Scott and I, you'd hear it, but it would be bringing in another interior defensive lineman. Right now on our lads, the Broncos starting 3-4 defensive end, 4-eye, whatever you want to call him, out there opposite of Zach Allen is Jonathan Harris. And we talked about it last season. Jonathan Harris in that week 3 Buffalo game, I mean, I think he was number 92, just did not belong on the field, man. He was rough. And if he's your, very last active defensive lineman, that would be fine. But the fact that he's listed as a starter out there right now scares me a good bit. Now, what does the rotation look like with Mike Purcell, who's been injured and is another year older, DJ Jones, who's the only guy I really trust out there that hasn't been injured, and then Zach Allen, who's an inside-outside guy? I don't know. So I'm looking for some more beef up front on that interior defensive line. Shelby Harris is the name that sticks out a lot for good reason. I mean, obviously, he played under Vance Joseph. I think he's even brought to Denver under Vance Joseph. Had some good years. He fits that niche that you're looking for almost exactly, which is great as well. But looking at other names out here still available, I mean, somebody that makes some sense to me is Matt Ioannidis, who's only 29 years old. I think he's about 6'4", 309 pounds. He can play a little bit of, one technique in pass situations, solid 3-4-eye. I think he's been pretty good. I don't know if there's an injury issue with him, but Matt Ioannidis is another one who really stands out for me. I thought he was pretty solid with the Panthers. They're obviously not as good as lottery pick Derek Brown, who's been just an emerging star on that Panthers defensive line. If you watched the Broncos last season, you probably remember Derek Brown just blowing up the interior. But I think adding one more guy that can be a first backup or like just, eat up 40% of the snaps on the defensive line is something that I would look to just be the cap on top of the defensive building blocks right now. Obviously center, tight end, running back spots we talked about, but I think the defensive line is the one that I'm looking at right now. So that's where I'm at. That's I don't know if you guys let us know what you think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I mentioned Shelby Harris earlier. Chris Wormley was another one that I kind of thought about. Like I said, Shelby Harris, he actually played, and we got Phil saying, so the 10 teams playing overseas will be announced tomorrow, along with the teams playing on Black Friday on Amazon. So full schedule comes out on Thursday, but we're going to have little hints dropped out throughout the next couple days here. And I'm interested to see what the Broncos do for their big video. I know Peyton Manning's going to be a part of it, but it really has turned into quite the spectacle for all these teams to put out their videos. And it used to be, seems like whoever could get it out there the fastest. Like it wasn't about any kind of pomp and circumstance or anything like that. It was all about, let's just get it out there as fast as we can. Now it really has turned into quite the spectacle. But so yeah, excited about that. Be paying attention on Thursday, and we'll be covering it here at Mile High Huddle for sure. And we got Kevin Vigil saying, wouldn't center from Titans Jones be cheap now?
Yeah, Ben Jones has been a really good center for a number of years, but the big holdup on Ben Jones is that he suffered 2 concussions last season, pretty close together. So I've heard there's some talk that the Titans are like, hey man, you probably medically retire from football after those 2 concussions in the short span. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's not signed by anybody this season, or if he's signed up like right before everything kicks off for this year, or he retires completely from the game. But those 2 concussions back to back are very concerning for him long term, and I hope that whatever he decides to do is informed by top medical experts and his family, because he'll have to live with whatever decision he makes.
Right, and I've seen the name Dwayne Smoots put out there. Didn't he tear his Achilles at the end of the season?
I don't remember. I remember him drafted by Houston, played, or maybe it was Jacksonville, played for a bit. I remember him as an edge rusher. I got to be honest, Carl, I don't think that I would be spending resources at edge where this team is at right now, because you have a bunch of guys that I would put in similar tier to the guys that are being mentioned right now. Broncos need if they're building this team, you're looking for a superstar, 1A kind of edge rusher out there. And you already have a bunch of 3s and 4s rotational guys out there. Yes, Yannick Ngakoue would be really good, but if you're doing that, or you're pretty much just folding up shop on Nick Bonito, then you'll trade him for whatever you can get, because that's his niche and role exactly. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But he's gone in that situation. So I just think you have so many bodies at edge rusher that it's a long-term need, but for the immediacy of this roster, I don't think that I'm looking to spend money on a 1-year kind of guy there.
I get it. I just, because the edge position has so many names right now, like you got Melvin Ingram, Frank Clark, Ngakoue. I view it as a position you can get a guy pretty cheap. Mm-hmm. So you're not making a huge commitment, obviously, to him. And like I said, if you can get a guy that consistently gives you 8 sacks, did the Broncos have anybody that had 8 sacks last year? I think like 6 was their top last year.
Bradley Chubb might have had 8 sacks on the entire season.
Right. But I mean, for the Broncos, because he's only halftime. And right now I'm not believing Bonito's going to become anything in the league. So I'm okay moving on from that. I know he was a 2nd round pick, but I didn't like the pick when we made it. I didn't like how he played last season. I mean, he was getting beat out by undrafted guys. And so that's a little bit of why I lean that way. Defensive line, part of my issue is, again, just not a whole lot of great names out there. I mean, a couple guys that you can sit there and say, hey, they can be a part of the rotation and be fine. No big issue there. And obviously at this point, you're not getting a whole lot of great talent. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that they're still on the market. It's pretty much, a lot of teams are kind of waiting until they figure out their full roster, or waiting for June 1st to kind of see how that's going to work out. I think now if players are signed, they don't count against the comp formula, do they?
You're correct.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, I like to add at least a little bit more pass rush, just because of how aggressive Vance Joseph is. I want guys that can actually get home. You know, if you're going to be aggressive and your guys can't actually get home, well, you just put all this pressure on your back end that leaves you with nothing. You know, you can have Patrick Surtains across the board, and that still at some point they're going to break if you can't get home. And that's the other position. I've seen some people mention cornerback. Is there anybody on the market for that? The top name that you can maybe make the claim for out there on the market is Ronald Darby.
What about Rocky Sin? Has he signed with anybody yet?
I think he did.
Okay, I thought he was still available, but somebody can check on that with me. Last I saw, like prior to the draft, he was still out there. Yeah, there's you could potentially bring a cornerback in. I think that ship maybe sailed when they brought in Moss, and now you have Moss versus Mathis on the boundary there. I mean, the Broncos did a lot of work on Moss, and they said that they like him at cornerback. So that would be I don't think cornerback is one they're going to look to spend. Now, if they didn't get a cornerback in the draft and trade up for one at that, then maybe we'd have that conversation. But I view it that the investments that they've made there, they're probably going to let them compete and then reevaluate. And once teams cut down from 90 to 53, then I think that's probably when you could reevaluate, reassess the position.
And yes, he did sign with the Ravens.
Oh, man, the Ravens are so good at that post-comp game signing. It's crap. So there we go. Well, good for them. They needed more cornerback help out there. So that's a good signing for them. So that one missed my radar, but still got Kevin up here. I can't tell. Is that a dog or a kangaroo on that picture there, Kevin? But shout out to dogs and kangaroos alike, although they're a little bit scary. We got our guy, Richard Miles, coming in. Hi, guys. Glad to catch you alive. Hope all is well with you and your family. Well, hope all is well with you and your family, too. And all our Denver Broncos fans. And we also got George Fox coming in saying, great pod, guys. Thanks. Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. Hit the thumbs up. Yeah, shout out to George giving us the shout out for hitting the thumbs up. So, yeah, and Kevin says it's his pup. Well, cute pup, all about the dogs. And we also got Teddy saying, just flipped over in bed. Hello, what's up? What's this channel about? We're talking draft. I see you got the Rams stuff there. We don't got anything against the Rams other than embarrassing the absolute heck out of us in the at Christmas. But that slime game, man, ugly stuff. But I definitely, okay, so if you can bring in like Melvin Ingram or Yannick Ngakoue on like a vet minimum, and then you trade one of your guys there for a 6th or 7th round pick, I guess you're okay trading the salary cap. You're essentially paying for a draft pick in that. I'd be okay with that. But I think at the same time, the way the edge position sets up for me is that you have so many names there that are like edge rusher 4s, 5s, and 6s on a lot of teams, 3, 4, 5, 6 types.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it sets up where, I guess if you bring in somebody, you kick Browning down to being the super sub edge rusher, a little bit more versatile with Randy Greger on the outside, that would look pretty good because you're already going to rotate that position pretty heavily. It's just then you are punting, like you're already punting then on Christopher Allen chance probably, which is fine if you want to do that. We haven't seen Diddley from him, so that's fine. Nick Benito chance for sure. He's probably gone in that case. And Jonathan Cooper. You're trading at least one of those guys and Jacob Martin. So just so many bodies there that none of them are great. Right. But if you kick them all down, I mean, edge rush is a position. So I could see it. Actually, I'm talking myself into it more the more I talk about it. If you can guarantee me that we can trade one of those guys, even if it's a simple thing like, we trade Jonathan Cooper in a 7 and secure a 6, like they did with Malik Reed last year. I mean, that's still adding resources, and then you can turn that 6 next year into 2 7s if you want. So I'm okay with that. And is Yannick Ngakoue, was that your pick, or was there another name that really stood out to you?
No, I think that would be my pick. I've always wanted Melvin Ingram on the team. I don't know. I've just always liked him. And I've always thought he's been underrated as a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I think Ngakoue's a little bit younger. I think he's only 28 right now. So really in the prime of a pass rusher. Like I said, it's been very consistent, 8 sacks or more every single season that he's been in the NFL for 7 straight seasons. And so I like that guarantee of what you're bringing in. Like, you just know this guy's going to give you this and has that starting experience. So if one of your starters goes down, you actually have a guy that can step in and play that role just fine. And you're not having one of those. I mean, like I said, you listed a lot of guys, but none of them sit there and make me go, ooh, I want to see what they would do if they got a starting opportunity. I'm just not at that point. Right now it'd almost be like, I'd rather see Drew Sanders go down to that spot and see what he's got than any of the guys that they have behind Browning and Gregory right now.
Yeah, it's interesting to follow. It'll be fun. I mean, there's no doubt that when we're talking, a year from now, we might be talking about a first round edge rusher just with how the position sets up. So definitely a long-term need as well. Phil McLaughlin saying, you guys think Vance Joseph might use Drew Sanders similar to the way the Cowboys have used Parsons? Parsons essentially already made the transition to edge rusher last season. I think he had like 500 snaps at edge compared to 100 in the box. So he's an edge rusher at this point. I don't think that Sanders is the height, weight, speed freak show of an athlete that Micah Parsons is, which is, shocker there, Nick. No, it's so I think you could see him used somewhat in some roles, but I think it's going to be much more sparing than what Parsons did because Parsons is a unicorn in terms of the athletic profile. I mean, he's Von Miller-esque in terms of his ability. And if you guys recall in 2011, was it 2011? Yeah, it would have been 2011. Von Miller played, I think, more snaps registered in the box as a Sam than he did at edge. And then the next season, they're like, oh my God, why are we wasting this guy's talent on the second level of the defense when we could pin his ears back at edge rusher? We're stupid. Let's put the great pass rusher in a pass rush situation. So we'll see what the Broncos do with that. But I don't think you could see some situational pass rush stuff with like the B gap and whatnot, but I don't see it happening with him making the difference that Parsons makes.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, and this is going to happen every year from now on with Mike Parsons, of everybody going, hey, could this be that next guy? And I unfortunately, Micah Parsons, like you said, he's a unique unicorn that he can play off ball. He can get there on edge, all those kind of things. And so Sanders, yes, he has some of that ability, but he's like 75% of what you'd be getting from Micah Parsons, which is still good. Don't get me wrong. And I think he's going to be a very good player for the Broncos. I think he was one of their best value picks. Now, how they're going to use him and how they're going to get him to fit, that's always been my big question with Vance Joseph, because he's had players, these hybrid guys, and they haven't always thrived well in his system. But like I said, I think that A gap, B gap blitzing, I think that's where his strength is going to be for the Broncos, and which is great because that's a lot of what guys like Patrick Mahomes, some of his struggles, I would say, would be guys coming straight up in his face. And if you got guys that can hold the edge well, which I think Randy Gregory and Baron Browning can do well, then you kind of trap him in there, push that box into his face, and that's when he makes his mistakes.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this defense looks this season. Broncos have been somewhat blessed with really good defensive coordinators, defenses in general, over the last decade. So might be some regression there from a scheme standpoint, but hey, if they can be healthy, maybe they stick right around that way. Jasmine coming in, $2.99 super sticker, and I think Jasmine's going to be our closer today as we wrap it on up here. Thank you so much, Jasmine. We appreciate you coming in as our closer, and hope you're doing well. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to wrap it on up. Make sure you guys are following Carl and I on Twitter. Carl is at Carl Dumler MHH. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle, BTB_pod. See, Chad took it away, and now I'm having to do it off the top of my head and just went into a memory mode there. So BTB, Building the Broncos _pod. So make sure you're following us there, and at Mile High Huddle, of course. Follow us at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, you're listening after the fact, or you just want to go out and support us, find us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, as well as Spotify. Mile High Huddle, Huddle Up. You'll be able to find us on there, and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. We really do appreciate that when you get out there. You guys can comment about my hair. Nick's finally fixed his mic. We need more Carl. He's much more sensical than Nick is. Nick's a big hater. Just play the hits sometimes. It's a lot of fun. But also make sure you guys are subscribing, liking, and sharing to us over on YouTube as well. Hit that bell icon on YouTube, so that way you know when we go live. If traffic for some reason is bad and I'm running 5 minutes late, hey, you don't have to sit around and wait. You can wait for that notification. That way you can hop in and say hello to us. So we appreciate you guys so much. Carl, any plans the rest of the night? What's going on?
Just a little bit, got to run to get in. Hoping to get back up to 3.5 miles tonight. So it's hopefully going to be nice out there. We've been hitting about 80 degrees, 85 most days. So I've been trying to wait till evenings to get that run in, and then a little bit of going home. Wife has been doing a huge grant for her work. So she's been working late. So I'm going to try to go home, clean house, all that fun stuff. Try to be the good husband here tonight. Yeah.
And we got Michael coming in too. Maybe he's the closer today, saying great show tonight, Nick and Carl, on Building the Broncos. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Go Broncos and buck 'em to you too. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate, Jamil coming in saying we need a guy like Vaughn. They don't make him like Vaughn, but that would be great. Let's manifest a Vaughn coming in next year. Thank you to everybody in the chat today. Obviously, it's a lot of fun. We're getting to the off season. Things are going to start to slow down here. But if you guys got any pressing questions, make sure you're hitting us up in the chat, hitting us up on Twitter. As I always like to say as we close on out, though, especially in the world we find ourselves in today, make sure you're choosing kindness and compassion. And, of course, go Broncos.